This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Stay tuned to the end of this video for more details. Guys, I have a brand new game to ensure that your brain is in tip-top shape. It's called Watch All 3 hours, 34 minutes, and 39 seconds of Petscop and then summarize it all in one sentence. Here, let me give you an example, because I just watched the entire series back to back. My summary.
You okay, buddy?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's literally impossible to summarize such a vast and cryptic story in one sentence. Move over, FNAF, we've got a new king of horror and crypticness that is unrivaled by anything else I've ever seen. In case you aren't aware, Petscop is a game, kind of. It's a fictional PlayStation 1 video game, product placement, am I right, whose gameplay can only be seen on the YouTube channel Petscop, wherein our narrator Paul takes us through the vast majority of the story, explaining his findings and thinkings as we go. The storyline is incredibly complicated, both relating to real-world events and murders, as well as expanding upon its own in-game storyline. This virtual copy pasta is one of a kind, and with the recent additions to the Petscop channel, well, they were recent when we wrote the script 3 months ago, I couldn't think of a better time to cover Paul, since there may never be another upload on the channel ever again. In addition to the lore, the idea and execution of Petscop is entirely unique and merits attention because of the way it handles the story of its main character. Paul is the engine that makes Petscop work. He's the reason it's so mysterious, so interesting, and why we get so invested in a fake game. It's all about Paul and his continuous lack of control over the game. Petscop evolves from an interesting idea into a masterful psychological horror experience throughout our relationship with Paul. So prepare yourself as we uncover Paul and what his role in this game really is, and how our relationship with him, not the game itself, creates this suspense, uncertainty, and helplessness. In the story, you never knew. Whoa! Come on! The very first Petscop video was uploaded on March 12th of 2017 with a single line in the description reading, "The game I found." It begins like any other Let's Play. The Sony and PlayStation logos come on screen, followed by the game developer Garalina, which of course is a completely fictitious company. Once the game loads, we get a copyright of 1997, our first real piece of evidence regarding this game. We now know the release year, if that's what you'd like to call it, considering it was never actually released. Once we get past the intro scene, we finally meet Paul, our narrator and player for most of the series. I'm not going to say all of it because in later episodes we don't hear Paul's narration and whoever is playing behaves differently from Paul. Paul always gets all the collectibles in every room, yet in other episodes, like episode 12, we see the character leaving collectibles. But we'll get more into that later. Back in the first episode, Paul begins to explain that he's recording the game to prove he isn't lying about it. We can infer that Paul is making this video for a certain someone, not just YouTube as a whole. He specifically uses the pronoun you, as opposed to something plural that would refer to an audience.
Me! He's referring to me!
He's referring to a generic player who's playing the game. Once we get past Paul's introduction, we meet our player avatar, which can only be described as an anus head. We arrive on the gift plane, which seems like a pretty adequate name considering the vast amount of present imagery throughout the game. Thanks to our sweet press X to read ability, we learned that the gift plane is closed indefinitely, and that the gift plane provided homes to hundreds of young pets. However, only 48 remain. The gift plane is unfinished, only having one of the 8 homes, or 8 levels available. Upon entering the first level dubbed Even Care, we find that the pets are essentially weird animals or objects with faces that we catch by solving puzzles. The atmosphere is meant to be happy, yet it feels eerie. Signs are stationed along your path that are creepy. They read, "When you're choosing a pet, find somebody that you like. You don't have to love them right away. And don't be discouraged if they run away from you. They really do want a home. They're afraid afraid. Show them that there's nothing to be afraid of. This is where we start to get the feeling that this game isn't what it seems. Why are the pets afraid? Why does the sign specify that we don't have to love our pets right away? Why does it refer to the pets as somebody? I don't know about you, but I've never personified an animal like that. It gets even stranger as Paul continues and has to catch the pets. Kind of like a Pokemon game. They don't want to be caught, and yet Paul forces them into his inventory by solving various puzzles.
It's okay, Paul. I know you're just forcing them out of love.
Ryan, he's not into you.
Scoff.
It's around this point we get the feeling that perhaps we've been swindled. Perhaps there's a bit of a bait and switch going on here. We thought we were going to enjoy a fun Let's Play, but it's getting weirder and weirder by the second. This is blown fully into light when Paul describes a note that came with the game.
I walked downstairs, and when I got to the bottom, instead of proceeding, I turned the right and became a shadow monster man.
The note then has another section dated 6/13/97 that says,
For you, please go to my website on the sticker, and also go to Ronith's room, and press start, and press down, 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 right, start.
Now, cheat codes are nothing new in gaming. This just sounds like a play on the infamous Konami code. But when Paul enters the code, the happy music stops, leaving only an atmosphere of unease. Paul leaves Even Care, but instead of returning to the gift plane, he exits a brick building on a dark plain surrounded by grass and nothing else. Paul eventually finds what looks like a cellar door, but he's unable to open it. And that's where Petscop 1 ends, with the door remaining closed while both Paul and everyone watching remain in the dark. Now, I'm not going to go into as much detail with the rest of the episodes as with episode 1, because it would literally take hours upon hours to expand upon every single detail of nearly 4 hours of intense and very questionable gameplay. But I want to highlight a couple things from episode 1 that are important to note about Paul. First off, he's our commentator, our guide, but he's an unreliable narrator. He's just as lost as we are, and the information he gives us could be right, or we might find out later that it's completely wrong, or that Paul has no idea why something happened.
Paul would never be wrong. He's my guide, my muse, my white knights dressed in velvet.
This effect is used multiple times, including in the first episode when Paul tries to figure out how to catch Tonith. This bird made of a meatball connected to a lima bean by a spiky polished turd. It's done again in episode 2 when the cellar door is opened for seemingly no reason. When we watch Let's Players, we expect the person playing to figure out what's going on, and that's how the episode progresses forward. We can trust the person playing to figure out what to do next and explain how they got to where they are, either through commentary or the visuals on screen. But this isn't the case with Paul. Episode 2 starts with Paul out of the room, and yet this door opens while he's gone. While he's AFK. Paul isn't in control! And that's just the first sign. Tool, who looks like this, turns pink in episode 5. Is this an example of Tool's confused gender identity? Or is this another example of Paul being dumbfounded by a change in the game completely outside of his control? And that lack of control is terrifying. Or hot, depending on what you're into or what you can afford at that shop with blacked out windows. This is where we first begin to get the idea of Petscop being haunted. Not the shop with blacked out windows. The lack of control. Many people subscribe to this haunting idea, but it is first brought up by Paul.
This game is trying very hard to make it seem like there's an entity in it, like a ghost or an AI trying to communicate with me.
Man, Paul sounds like he's 14. Paul's character is the engine to drive more and more mystery into the game. It's his suggestions, questions, and findings that give us ideas like a sentient AI being in the game, or even a spooky ghost! But as the Petscop episodes continue, Paul tends to talk less and less. This narrator we've come to trust as our guide seems far less certain about his actions. And then episode 11 hits. Episode 11 starts off mid-sentence with Paul talking. He's clearly in the middle of explaining how he's related to the game, but the beginning of the explanation is edited out. This makes absolutely no sense considering previous recordings of Paul, until you read the video description. Everything we wish to say is below. The purpose of this YouTube channel is to preserve and display the recordings within the video game Petscop while keeping some of their content private. They were first given to us as a Christmas gift many years ago. The game had an interesting journey before and after that day. Paul created some additional recordings in 2017 as a way to show Petscop gameplay to his friend. He created this account in order to upload those additional recordings in video format. He later passed ownership of the channel to us, but continued to record himself at our strong suggestion. Though he had issues with this arrangement, these have finally been settled. Please enjoy the recordings in Petscop. We do. Smiley face.
Paul? Paul? Where'd you go, Paul? Come back, baby!
So now, Paul isn't even uploading the videos to the channel, and some unknown person or people are editing his recordings. They specifically say the channel is now used to preserve and display the recordings while keeping some of the content private. Now, all of Paul's thoughts are going through an extra censor. It's another loss of control for us as viewers. Now, we're worried for Paul. What happened to him? Why did he give up the channel? What issues did he have with the new channel runners? How did the new runners find Paul and know about the game at all? And most importantly, what is being cut out of the videos now? This intrusion into our comfort zone is quickly blown out of the water in episode 12. Like I said earlier, it becomes clear that whoever is playing in this recording is not Paul. There's no narration. They don't collect all the gems, and the game is treating them differently, offering explanations and dialogue boxes the entire time. This is not Paul's playstyle. One of the ideas explaining this change suggests that it's a demo scene from when you leave a game on too long and the game begins to play itself as an example of gameplay. But I've never seen a demo scene that tells you how long you've left the game on, which by the way has a number of hours adding up to 17 years. Perhaps this is how long the AI/ghost has been haunting this game. It's been running up this number, moving the avatar around for almost 2 decades. Add on the fact that at the end of Petscop 12, the title screen has no quit game option, when Paul's gameplay always does, and there may be a good case that someone is actually trapped within this game. But this isn't the scary part. It's creepy that someone else, whether it's a ghost or AI or human, is playing. But the real horror is Paul is gone, and we don't know where or even if he'll come back. Paul was our lifeline to this game, and without him, we have no idea who we're watching, what their intentions are, or anything about them. Paul was a safety net, and episode 12 took that away from us. Paul does return in episode 13 and 14, but episodes 15 through 21 have no dialogue at all. The old description is gone as well, being replaced with some select Petscop recordings. In a way, recordings have the power to raise the dead. They're kind of scary. We finished our long Easter egg hunt. Paul is gone. We haven't heard from him at all. Someone who knows more about the game is playing us recordings, showing us behind the scenes information. It's likely the uploads are over. This is all we'll ever get. As they said, we finished our long Easter egg hunt. So what happened to Paul? We don't know for sure. Many believe he died or was killed because of what he found in the game, and that the rest of his recordings were censored because of that fact. Some people still think it's Paul playing these. Maybe his commentary was censored, but I doubt it. Why show us all this hidden information and not give us Paul's commentary with it? In all likelihood, Paul is gone, and his story ends here. But we should acknowledge how he led Petscop to where it is.
I'll never forget your story, Pauly Bear. Millions of people have seen the gameplay, but I know it was made for me.
Is this real?
I love you more than you'll ever know.
He's probably dead, Ryan.
Polly Wally, I will never
He's
stop.
probably like 14. In the beginning, Paul was unreliable, knowing just as little as us. It made us anxious. He wasn't even making the videos for us, but for someone in particular. We were getting a glimpse into an exclusive conversation between the two, between Paul and his friend. Paul's uncertainty becomes our own as he loses control of the game. It acts without his interaction, sometimes with seemingly no reason. The game is cursed, the game is haunted, the game is unsafe for anyone to own, and yet Paul keeps playing. When Paul loses control of the game and then the channel, he's being censored. Sometimes it's not even him playing, and eventually we lose Paul altogether. The gameplay isn't the scariest part of Petscop, nor the potential AI or ghost trapped inside. Paul's decline is what gave Petscop the tense and psychological horror aspect it has. We had someone we could count on, narrating a game we could never predict. Even if he wasn't completely reliable at the start, he was a comforting presence in an eerie atmosphere. Look at the comments of the videos without his narration. I miss Paul's commentary, frowny face. It's what comforted me and made me watch the entirety of the video on full screen, lol. Paul, please come back. I miss your voice. It was comforting. His role is undeniable. But Paul was slowly taken away from us, one video at a time. And that deliberate decision to give us someone to connect with, to journey with, and then slowly take away his control is just creepy. It's our relationship with him that makes Petscop such a horrifying experience without even getting into the actual lore of the game, how it relates to real-life murders, and so much more. Instead of regurgitating the same theories and information as everyone else, I wanted to do something different. So I talked about our relationship with Paul, someone who became our friend and beacon of hope in the Petscop game, but was ultimately eliminated from the story by the end with no explanation. That's how you strike true fear into an audience. And that's what makes Petscop the experience it is. That's the story of Paul. The story you never knew. Paul's story is done, but it will never be forgotten. But if you feel for Paul, then you can start your own story right now with our sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that has literally everything you need to build a phenomenal online presence. Whether you need a website to highlight your skills or an online store, you can do it with Squarespace. I've already made 2 websites with Squarespace to spread the knowledge of the Galactic Tribe. It's super easy to use. You can upload video backgrounds to stand out above the competition like I did. Who doesn't want to check out these dolphins? Plus, there's never any plugins necessary. Squarespace helps you get the right SEO, that's search engine optimization, to bring traffic to your site. As a YouTuber, I know how hard SEO can be, so this is a massive help for anyone not versed in SEO optimization. And once you get those visitors, Squarespace has insights on your traffic, where people are coming from, what devices, browsers, and operating systems they use to help you pinpoint your demographics. There's no better option, so start building your online presence today by going to squarespace.com/Treesicle and using code Treesicle at checkout for 10% off your first purchase. Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and thanks to you lovely people for watching. Our sponsors are a huge help to our channel, so checking them out, supporting them, supports us as well. I'm Grant, thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye everyone.